Hello, lacrosse friends. Welcome to the final episode of Inside the World of Box Lacrosse for the 2025 NLL season. I am Steven Stamp. He is Greg Beecher. We're going to have a special guest, Trevor Butz, a little bit later in the show. We are going to talk about how the NLL season wrapped up. We're going to talk about the IL Indoor Awards, which have all but one been presented. But for you, the subscribers, the members, we will be sharing a little bonus information that other folks won't see till tomorrow. And ITWOBL will exist in some iteration, some format. It's inside the world of box lacrosse. It doesn't end with the NLL season, but it ends with the NLL season in this format. There's going to be news coming up. We're still figuring out what we're going to do. We're open to input, but we'll be talking senior, junior, lacrosse,
exciting news.
men's, women's.
Anybody who hasn't seen it yet, make sure you're subscribed to Stamper's channel. He is doing a ton of games up there. So we have a link in the description, or I will shortly after this video is over, to make sure we link to his channel. And basically, for all your Can-Am coverage, make sure you're tuned into Blue Squatch. And is it Stamp Lax is the name of it, right? I know I subscribed to it, but yeah. So and Stamp Lax on YouTube, you'll know because you'll see the Can-Am thumbnails and Stamper on there. So I mean, we might as well.
There's a picture of me in my Norway jersey. Is my avatar.
And you were 3-0 in the finals. You absolutely nailed the finals.
Did I? Wow, way to go.
Yeah, no, so when it mattered, you really picked right. 8-3 for the overall playoffs. I'd say you did pretty well. So you totally redeemed yourself in the playoffs and the finals.
Nice. I actually thought I'd pick Saskatchewan for game 3, but maybe I was smarter than that.
You were thinking about it, I know, and then we made sure that you picked it for the finals because I thought that's what I remembered you telling me.
Yeah, no, sounds good to me. I obviously I was brilliant. What a game, right? I mean, unbelievable. It was such a good game. And it's funny, I was looking through my notes and I was thinking when it got to 7-3 for Buffalo, 6-3, I started typing a note that this could be a problem for Saskatchewan, that when Buffalo gets rolling, it's hard to stop them. And, and then they get, as I'm typing this note, they score their 7th goal. And I'm thinking, holy cow, this could be a problem, even for a resilient team like Saskatchewan. And then they battle back to make it 7-6, and we're actually inches away from tying it up with another late goal right at the buzzer at halftime. And then, of course, that was it. That was the end of Saskatchewan. There was no more. There's no more scoring. Frank Chiliano did not have a great game, realistically.
Not the goaltender of the year performance we'd been used to watching him. Whereas actually watching this back, Matt Vince did not have his best first half. I mean, I think when you watched it, but totally redeemed himself in the second half.
Yeah, which is very Matt Vince, right? Yeah. I mean, when you most need it. I mean, it's unbelievable that this guy now has 2 three-peats as the goaltender in NLL Cup finals. I was going through, nobody else has won more than 2 championships in a row. Bob Watson won 6 championships, and that's remarkable. And he actually had 4 in 5 years, so pretty amazing. But to do 2 three-peats, and to be such a central part of all of those for Matt Vince, he was never a passenger, right?
No, and this I think sums up like Matt Vince's style as far as like he doesn't even go for the save. As soon as he sees him coming towards the crease, he decides he's like, I'm coming for you.
Yeah, he does like to initiate contact, and that's the long pull from field lacrosse coming out in him as well.
Yeah,
it's he has no problem with the physicality, and this is a good look. You look at Michael Jordan. You look at, honestly, I find some of these people pretty annoying. Like I think Kobe Bryant was a really super annoying athlete.
Yes.
He went right. He was so obnoxious and so egocentric, and the whole. To me, it was a telling thing when he was in an All-Star game and Karl Malone went to set a pick for him, and he waved him off. He's like, "Nah, I got it." It's like, are you serious right now? Like, it's Karl Malone, man. Let him set a pick. But whatever, that's not that relevant. I think Matt Vince has been a fantastic athlete, and so we're going to get to our awards for Players of the Year and that. But our goalie of the year for IL Indoor, same as the NLL, it worked out, was Frank Chiliano. And I think it's the right pick. Like, I stand behind it. I think Nick Rose would have been a great pick. We didn't have Matt Vince as a finalist. It's really important to remember that that was all based on the regular season. Because if you include the playoffs, I don't think there's any question, right? Matt Vince is the guy. He had like a 957, was it, or 928 save percentage in the finals.
Yeah.
His save percentage in the playoffs was insane. Like, or sorry, not nine. Yeah, it was. Was it 970? No, it was 857. Yeah, no, 957 would be crazy. 857 or eight. Like, it was the numbers. It's hard to remember them because they're so out of the ballpark of what you're used to seeing.
Yeah.
You know?
No, that's yeah, that it is crazy. So yeah, he had, according to them at the beginning of it, his 2025 save percentage was 8.4. But not that anybody
Yeah.
else can see that. That's just you gets to see that. We rerun
Okay.
it because we've got
840. Yeah.
the Chiliano goalie of the year. I honestly think I was talking about this. San Diego got to be kicking themselves in the backside over this one, right?
Maybe. I mean, he wasn't. I mean, I think they felt like Riglieri was going to be their guy. I think Patrick Merrill has enough belief in himself that he thinks long term it's still the right decision to let Frank go. But I'll tell you, you got to think with Chiliano in San Diego this year, it may have been them instead of Saskatchewan in the championship.
100%. I agree 100%. I really think,
Yeah.
yeah. But like you said, long term future, it is tough to. I mean, if you think
Yeah.
that's your guy, that's your guy. You got to go with him.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see, right? And you don't know, and it could be. The reality is, Chris Riglieri was fantastic last year. The league adjusted to him. He wasn't great this year. He may be a great long-term goalie, but he probably, like most goalies, won't be consistently great for about another 5 or 6 years. Because it really is like, even though there are more goalies playing well at a younger age now, it still seems to be 27, 28 before people really hit their peak consistency. Even Dylan Ward, even
Honestly, I think that's got to be a
Matt
mentality
Vince.
thing. As you get older,
Yeah,
you realize that, and like you watch Matt Vince and the way he plays too. Yeah, I really think it's just as it's got to be it's got to be so hard to be a goalie in this league, though. I mean, you give
yeah,
up a couple goals, like Matt Vince's
yeah,
the very first shot on net was a goal, and then the
yeah,
second, like he just had a
yeah,
terrible start, but to be able to mentally come back from that, I think is
yeah.
the biggest difference. Oh wow.
And the one thing for Matt Vince as well, another thing is, if you go through his career, and I've done this at times because I thought, well, he doesn't seem to have consecutive bad games. So I've literally gone through like all his games from his career to see when he's had consecutive poor statistical games. It's not often. It is very rare for him. Like, he'll have bad games. Every goalie has bad games. Every player does. Every athlete. But it's very rare for him to have two in a row.
Yeah.
And it's which is again, you talked about the mental side. That's the big part of it. He's a great athlete. He's very, he's in amazing condition. He's gifted. He's talented. He's very physically a great athlete. But mentally, I think that's where he's probably the GOAT for sure.
100%. And the way you see he gathers the defense around after a goal, and he'll either say it's on me or what were you doing? Like he clearly.
Never says it's on him. Never.
I have seen once. I have seen once where he did, and he should have at this game, the one he wasn't paying attention to, that they just rifled in
Oh
at
my God,
the beginning. That I did
Austin
leave
Shanks just ripped it.
Oh yeah, I thought about leaving
Yeah.
that one in, but I was like, now we're talking about
Yeah.
what a year, what a meant, and like right here, just knowing he's going to come out physically, he's a beast, comes out, gets the ball back in the crease.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He hasn't said. It's funny because you tend to get pretty nervous when your goalie decides to run about, right?
Yes.
It's not something that makes you super comfortable. But with Matt Vince, you just don't see him very often get caught in a bad situation because he knows now. Occasionally, you talk about, it's interesting, you talk about him coming out to lay the hits to initiate contact. Occasionally that gets him. That does bite him in the butt once in a while, where he decides, I'm going to go hit this guy, and the guy sees it coming and just drops the ball in. But more often than not, it works out. And he, I mean, he's so smart and so poised. right? I mean, he's remarkable.
Yeah, no, and like you said, he basically, I think, makes the calculated decision that he's willing to give up a goal to let this guy know he's going to get punched in the
Yeah.
mouth every time he comes into my crease.
That's a good point. That's a good point. I mean, it's funny because he's got like Cam Wires and Steve Priolo and Paul Dawson and Zach Belter. He's got guys who will jump in a heartbeat if anybody's doing something they don't like in the crease, even if they check them in there. They'll come in, and yet Vince is still gonna let you know himself.
Yeah,
which is pretty cool. And with the way he performed, you look at his save percentage, look at just the big moments, not allowing a goal in the second half in Game 3. Waiting for the MVP of the finals to be announced. I'm sitting there thinking, is it going to be Vince? Is it going to be Dane Smith? Vince, Dane. Vince, Dane. They announced Ian McKay, and I specifically checked at the start of the playoffs, or at some point I checked with a source in the league and said, hey, is it the MVP for the playoffs or for the finals? Because you hear people banty about both, right? It is for the finals. In which case, I think they absolutely got it wrong. I think it's Matt Vince, maybe Dane Smith. If you're going whole playoffs, Ian McKay was incredible. He was really good in the final too, but I just don't think he was the MVP of the playoffs.
See, my understanding of it was the playoffs, and it made more sense because when you see the 18 goals I think he had for the total,
my God.
Yeah, you're like, all right.
If it was the whole playoffs, they got it right, but it's not. I checked with the league again. I do this fairly frequently because I just want to make sure, because you will hear somebody even from the league say the playoff MVP, but it's not. It's the finals MVP, which I think was Matt Vince.
Yeah, no, I agree. But we do have a couple of highlight goals that we're going to watch here. I mean, this one I just had to grab because it's like, oh my goodness, and that's your D guy.
Yeah,
and I think everybody knew Byrne his stick was going to light up. I mean, it was just a matter of time. He really did not have the best playoff. He does so much off ball, it kind of makes up for a lot of it. But the goal scoring was not there for him. But I mean, right here.
Well, he and Smith kind of switched, right? I mean, Dane Smith scored a lot more goals than Byrne was setting up, and that's the beauty of that dynamic duo, is that they can do that. And now this is an interesting one. A gorgeous goal, like a fantastic goal, right? Like, oh my goodness, what an athlete!
Yeah,
so much composure and body control when he's flying through the air. I think the interesting thing was how upset Bandits fans were that he got this penalty. That's a penalty. He dove into the goalie. It wasn't a major. It's good that it was reduced.
Yeah, that's just Bandit fans in general, I feel like, no matter what happens.
It is. It is. Scott Loeffler, their president, whatever his role, he tweeted, "What a joke!" I'm like, it's a penalty.
Yeah,
he dove into the goalie, and the thing they're saying, well, Messenger should have got a penalty. You know what? He probably should have. The first one where he knocks his helmet sideways, that's probably a penalty. The second, when he kind of grabs on, you could call holding. You could or couldn't. That one's a questionable, but it could be a holding call. But the thing is, if one of those penalties is getting called, that's wiped out by the goal, and then Byrne gets the penalty after, because otherwise the goal doesn't count if his penalty's first, right? So that's how it works with a play like that. If the ball's in first, the goal counts, then you hit the goal, you get your penalty. So even in that situation, the goal's wiped out, or the goal wipes out the first penalty, and then his penalty is adjudicated. It's not like there's somebody already in the box.
Though. I mean, both things could be right, that it should have been a Mike Messenger penalty, especially on the first one in the goal. But I mean, here's what I'm looking forward to this summer. Chase Fraser's coming back, and we're going to see goals like this all summer. Oh my goodness.
He's coming back to Allegheny?
He's coming back to Allegheny this year. I talked to Kebby. Maybe a day to rest.
He's incredible.
But, oh my goodness!
Like, how does he make these? Like, how does it occur to you? And you know what? We shouldn't even wonder at this point why he's thinking to take that shot, because the one with one hand around the back bouncer, that shot, you'll take anything, right? And the thing, it's funny. Teddy Jenner was pointing out again, because after he scored that one with the one hand around the back, they said, he was practicing that. He was working on that in practice. And then they pointed out, it's shoot around. He was working on these one hand behind the back flips. That's insane.
Yeah.
But I do think that's an important point is that, you know, he's not just pulling something out like, oh, you know, maybe this will work. He practices these things.
Yeah, no, I honestly think that is huge to point out. But that is something, like you said, that's not the first time. I think Teddy does a good job talking about it. The gall or the
Yeah.
courage or however you want to say it to throw
The
that, to
audacity.
have the confidence to throw that in a finals game is just like insane. Oh my goodness, yeah, I love it.
Yeah, it's really something. Yeah, and you know, and again, that's with you know, against a really good defense.
Oh yeah,
And a really good goalie, right? And he's finding it. So, yeah, no, it's something. It's and yeah, you know, and speaking of Teddy, I think it is a treat to get to watch Teddy and listen to Teddy call games. I'm very confident in my ability as a play-by-play announcer. I believe I'm, you know, among the top couple in the world for box lacrosse. I put Teddy right there. Like if I, you know, a lot of games I'm watching, honestly, I'm like, use me. It'd be better if I was calling this. But with Teddy, I'm like, oh, good job.
no, Teddy Jenner is he
Yeah.
you could it's one of those things you could tell he's been calling this. He's been around the sport since forever, and the nothing replaces experience, I don't think. But we kind of got to get moving here, and let's get into the awards.
Okay.
And we talked about the goalie award already. I think that was huge. I 100% agree with you guys. This has become my favorite award right here. Is this the unsung player.
Hero?
Yeah.
It's supposed to be unsung hero.
That's usually what I thought it was, but I was running with it. I was like, okay, so yeah, the unsung hero.
I know. We just didn't get it changed.
Yeah, no, that is. I completely agree with with that one. I honestly I loved that Vancouver. The whole story of Vancouver this year was amazing.
Yeah.
There were so many people.
So great, right?
It feels like no matter who you're talking about or what you're talking about, you leave somebody out. So to see him get, I absolutely love this award.
Yeah, and the funny thing about it is that you know, unsung hero is so difficult. Like there's 30 guys you could include, right? I mean, Taylor Jensen and Colton Armstrong are there too, and there are so many others that you could include. But it's funny, we you know, this was decided before we saw the ballots for the National Lacrosse League awards, and Brett Mitsky was a nominee for the Defensive Player of the Year, which kind of surprised me, to be honest. And I thought, well, is he unsung if he's a nominee for Defensive Player of the Year? Did we mess up? But I was like, you know, I just blew it because I was going to say we just don't have to tell anybody. Nobody knows he was a nominee. but no, I mean, he's so good. And I pointed out before. I remember 2015 World Championships in Onondaga, where you know the best of the best in the world were there, and to me, he was the best defender at that tournament. And I mean, that's 10 years ago. And he's still playing at a remarkably high level, and he's just not flashy at all.
Well, I mean, honestly, with the Defensive Player of the Year, there's so many guys that you could mention that you kind of figure your unsung player, your unsung hero should be right around on that cusp anyways.
Yeah, that's true.
Here's one. I think a lot of guys only care about the goals on this. I'm really happy to see Zach Currier here because the cause turnovers, the way he plays defense is just amazing. I love seeing that. Honestly, I could have seen my Johansson up there a little bit higher, but yeah, I know you're also big on him as well. But no, Zach Currier. Excellent.
Well, I mean, the other finalists are Jake Boudreau and Owen Grant. Who are you bumping?
Yeah, that's
Johansson.
True. Probably Boudreau, just because their turf is terrible. So I'm just gonna take him
true,
off.
but that's not his fault.
I know, but it's tough to watch him.
He blends in with the turf. Yeah, that's true. But no, I mean, I'm a big Johansson fan. I wouldn't put him in as a top three, but he's in the discussion for sure. I mean, obviously Ryan Terefenko, Matt Gilray are like the other big guys. I think that are involved there. I talked about it in the story. We discussed at length whether Ian McKay is a transition player and decided he was not this year, that he was playing forward. And it did help, as I mentioned, he was on Box Out with Mackie and Coop and said yeah, no, I'm a forward.
Yeah.
Great. That saves us a lot of discussion.
Thank you. We don't have to worry about this now. Congratulations.
Yeah. But it's funny, when you say the way that Zach Currier plays defense, and of course he played some offense. He had several games he played mostly a forward, but he basically plays defense in the offensive zone. Right? Like his forecheck is so good. It's honestly, he and Adam Poitras are probably the only two guys I think that it's like they're playing defense in the offensive zone. There are other guys that are good forecheckers, quite a few, and guys that are really good back checkers. I mean, somebody like Kevin Crowley or Lyle Thompson, can go back and play defense, and you're not losing anything.
No.
They're good enough to play, right? And obviously, guys like Dane Smith and Mitch Jones, who actually played defense when they started, you're fine having them go back. But Courier in the offensive zone, it's like people just can't get past him.
Yeah. Well,
with the ball, they can get by. You're welcome to go, but you're leaving the ball here.
Yeah. No, I mean, and really the benefit of having guys like Courier and all the other players you just mentioned is that if they're out there on the floor for a defensive shift, they force somebody from the offensive side to have to stay on the floor with the transition most of the time, or doing the same thing back checking. It allows it allows them to stop a lot of the transition kind of so fast. It is the more I'm getting into the sport and the more nuance you notice, seeing those players, how they can really affect a transition game is huge.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's the one part that does get overlooked that I always try and consider when we're thinking about who's a transition player is, when you go back and take away the other team's transition. It's transition defense. It often gets called reverse transition. My understanding is reverse transition is actually when one team runs in transition, it's turned over, and the other team runs in transition. That's reverse transition, as opposed to transition defense is when you're a forward and you go back and play. But
that's just straight up transition. That doesn't make sense. I don't think at all.
So
this, I have become a huge fan of him this year. You pointed him out to me at the beginning of the year. You said it, and I've watched him nonstop. You could almost, if they did like most improved player too, you wouldn't think he got that much better because he was at such a high level. But I don't know what it was this year that really made him stand out. There seemed to just be a little extra.
Yeah, there really did. And it's interesting because he was so good when he was with Saskatchewan in the first place. I know they didn't want to lose him in the expansion draft, but you're going to lose somebody. And they left him unprotected. Panther City took him, which was a great pick. He became, he was their captain, was he not? Or alternate captain?
I believe alternate captain.
Yeah. So he was one of the captains. He was a great player. He took on such a big role. And it was like when he came back, they almost got a benefit from him leaving I'm sure they would have liked it if he'd gone for a year and come back instead of 3 years, whatever it was. But I thought in the dispersal draft, I thought it was stunning that he fell to Saskatchewan, and they must have been so excited when he was available. And here you go. Like, it turns out to be a great pick. And and the fact that he and his brother are both finalists is pretty cool. And Graham didn't have the best early season, but he came on. He was so himself in the last half.
No, I mean, just the fact that's got to be so cool for Matt Hossack now to even be considered, any of it for him has just got to be amazing because his brother has been there and really, I think he did steal the show this year. He had a more solid whole season. I 100% agree. Which award would you like to talk about next?
Oh, what we've talked about the GM and coach already, or we can run through those.
No, we have not. Which one would you like to do first?
GM. I'll remember who it is. Kurt Malosky. Yeah, and this was really difficult with the coach and GM kind of go hand in hand to an extent. Kurt Malosky was a finalist for both coach and GM, as was Derek Keenan. With the coach, obviously, as coach, was obviously with Jimmy Quinlan. Our other coach of the year finalist was Glenn Clark, and our other GM finalist was Mike Board. And the thing to me is, so Malosky wins this for what he's done over the last 2 years, building this franchise, and then culminating with the Del Bianco trade. And then after, of course, but this one we put out last week, they announced yesterday or the day before, that they've completed the trade. Aiden Walsh, as we all thought, goes to Calgary, but Ethan Ticehurst comes the other way. In return, there was future considerations both ways. And it kind of felt when the trade was first made, like Walsh was going to go to kind of balance it out.
Yeah.
Vancouver did so well getting Del Bianco. And then you throw Ticehurst the other way. Well, if you were making the trade straight up, Aiden Walsh for Ethan Ticehurst, that seems like a pretty good trade for Vancouver. I think that's a fair trade.
100%, as long as you've got somebody like Del Bianco in the net. Yeah.
Exactly. If you don't have another goalie, like I don't think Connor O'Toole's ready to be the guy yet.
Yeah.
So you needed Aiden Walsh. Now you've got Del Bianco. Walsh is available because O'Toole's ready to be a backup and grow into a role. So yeah, I think getting Ticehurst is fantastic because that mitigates the loss of Braden Laity, who was a huge part that Vancouver didn't want to give up but had to. We talked about this back when we were talking, like, what would the deal look like months ago, right? If it were to happen, we said from the beginning, Braden Laity has to be part of it. If you're
Yeah.
Calgary, if I'm the Calgary GM, I'm not making the deal without Braden Laity, right? And he was part of it, and he was really good for Calgary, and he's going to be great for them over the years. So bringing Ticehurst back helps to reinforce the Vancouver transition game.
I don't think anybody can question that at all. I mean, that is
Yeah.
what he did this year. Nobody had Vancouver doing as well as they did. So yeah, as the GM,
Yeah.
all the moves, and like you said, after the fact, kind of reinforcing what you said when he got Ticehurst out of the deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to agree.
Yeah.
Keenan and Quinlan, coach of
Yeah,
the year.
Jimmy Quinlan and Derek Keenan, and I think for the league they just had Jimmy Quinlan. I think that was the request of the team because they nominate their candidates. So, but we'd already done ours, including the two of them, is because they're listed as co-coaches. Again, Kurt Milosky, great candidate, and there's others, including beyond Glenn Clark, that was our third finalist because of how they got through the season with so many injuries, and still were within a hair of making the playoffs. Mike Hazen. I still think John Tavares tends to get overlooked a bit just because he's got so much talent at his disposal. But I tell you, he's a good coach. He just keeps winning. He keeps, making things
You look at
proper for them.
Buffalo came out and they really were struggling for part of the year though, and then for him to be able to rally them the way he's done the last couple of years, and when Vince was hurt, the same thing. They had a rough start. Vince came back. He wasn't playing great when he first came back, and he single-handedly, I think, organized the troops, changed the way he did things, taking Farrell. Yeah, so he gets overlooked a lot because of the talent, but 100%, I don't think anybody.
But Jimmy Quinlan. Yeah, I mean.
But you look what they did with the Rush this year. Who picked the Rush to be in that position at the beginning of the year? Yeah, okay, get out of here.
I had them as a top four, as hosting a playoff game and stuff. So.
Yeah, I know, but I didn't, so that's why I say who did it. But
I also maybe I shouldn't even say it. I also picked Albany to make the finals this year.
Yes.
So. Yeah. So there's the ups and the downs, right? Rookie of the year. This to me is one that we got right and the NLL got wrong. I think there's more agreement between us at IL Indoor and the NLL than there has been, I think, in any year. I think generally such a broad band of voters. And one of the things, everyone assumes that I think that people in the NLL know better than everybody else, which is largely true, except talk to GMs, coaches, the week and in a week as they're preparing for a game. They're not looking at the other 12 teams in the league. They're looking at who they're playing that weekend.
Yeah.
Right. And now they do play everyone through the course of the season, but they are not watching as broad necessarily a spectrum of games as some members of the media in that are, because we have a broader demand each week. Right. So I think the voters did a great job this year overall, which is not always the case for sure. But this is one they missed.
How much do you think credit goes to him being the film coach last year and just the IQ really going through the roof?
A lot. Yeah, I mean, that was huge. He was for anyone who's not familiar, he was the video coach for the Firewolves last season when he was missing it with the knee injury. So he was there, he was committed, he was living in market, and he did a ton, and he really learned. And you hear rookies talk about that a lot when they just have to sit a game or two. If they're struggling, coaches will pull them, let them watch from above, up in the press box, and they learn things from that, right? And doing a season, obviously they would have liked to have him playing. He would have liked to have been playing. But to do a season where you're that involved in the X's and O's and in all the nuances and the strategies, I think helped him, because he sure didn't look like a rookie this year. Besides the running with the ball and being big and strong and hitting people and that, I think the big thing, he's killing penalties from the start and doing a really good job. You don't usually have rookies on the penalty kill.
No.
And his poise in the defensive zone, when he would get the ball, rookies tend to be, I've got the ball, I need to get it to somebody, or I need to run, like I need to do something. He from the start this year, pretty much, he would get a loose ball and be like, okay, what's going on? But part of that, of course, is knowing your situation before that you get the ball. I always talk when I'm coaching, I always tell players, if you're coming off the bench, don't run onto the floor and then look around to see what's happening. Look to see what's happening, so you know when you run onto the floor, you know where you're going, you know what you're doing. Same thing here, like know what's happening around you, which is difficult when there's so much happening in a 30-second defensive shift, right? But he will get the ball and he seems to just know how much time he's got and where his outlets are. And that is a very veteran feeling.
No, absolutely. Being able to do that anticipation, it's what I think makes so many of the box players first so much better at field too, because you have to be a step ahead and kind of process it. So that is all the awards. We're gonna have to take a quick break because we got to get Trevor on here, and he's got a hard out here at 10:30 because he's got a baseball game. But we will be right back in 2 minutes. Thanks so much, everybody.
Back, lacrosse friends, to Inside the World at Box Lacrosse. I'm Steven Stamp. He is Greg Beecher beside me, and down below we have Trevor Butz, or Trevor B, as it shows up in the thing. What's mine say? I think I put Stamper.
Stamper.
Yeah, because I did it on the phone, so I had to punch it in. Usually I'm on the computer, and I think the picture's better, isn't it?
It is. It looks great. Your service looks amazing. Okay. I'm impressed with it.
We have great service here. I'm at my mom's house, and we've switched all our services. My wife and I are moving in with my mom. She's 92, has some dementia that's getting progressive, and she just needs help. So we're moving in with her. So we're gradually doing that, and we've switched our service. So our TV, our internet, and everything is here. So we don't have any in Marmor, which is part of why I'm made sure to be here this morning, because otherwise I'm doing it off just my cell service. But yeah, I did a speed check that I sent to you. It was like 600 download and upload the other day. And sometimes
fast.
It's only a couple hundred, but it's good.
Yeah. So, Trevor, you are going to officially be running.
Hey, Trevor, you're here too.
Officially running all the Blue Squad
doing?
streams out there. Trevor, tell us a little bit about your background. Just give everybody a quick summary. You graduated from Niagara, and you are hot and heavy in the box lacrosse scene. Other than being a Bandits fan, you're all right.
Yeah, I graduated last year from Niagara University with my degree in sports management. As Greg mentioned, big Buffalo Bandits fan, being out here in Western New York, it's, part of the culture. You grow up, in Bandits lacrosse, and, you live and breathe it out here, and, starting to transition that passion now into the Can-Am over the summer.
So you had an early connection with Can-Am with one of your coaches.
I did. Chris Janice was my JV coach for lacrosse in high school. He played for the Tuscarora Tomahawks at the time, and he told us all come out. We're a real good team. They were undefeated that year. Ended up losing in the finals to Onondaga, but that's how I first got exposed to it, and I've been going to games ever since. And I think that was 2018, I want to say.
I love the tone. He's losing Onondaga. The drop in the voice was like, oh,
just
Red
defeated all around.
So
Well,
they were undefeated the whole year and then lost 4-6
Ooh.
to end the season.
Yeah, that's a.
Didn't Onondaga win the President's Cup that year, or was that a few years after they?
They made a run, but I want to say it might have been a few years earlier.
Oh yeah, if it was 2018, that was 2019 was in Ganawage. Where was 2018? I don't know.
Yeah.
I called the President's Cup in Ganawage. That was fun. I've done a couple of Prezzies. They're a blast. Really looking forward to this year's Prezzie in Brooklyn. Well, in Whitby, home of the Brooklyn Lacrosse Club or Brooklyn Merchants for the Prezzie, and they are good. We'll talk about that in a bit. We're talking Can-Am right now, though, and I'm actually streaming. So everyone, please do go and subscribe to Stamp Black's YouTube. I am streaming all the Grand River Warriors home games, and I know you guys are doing a ton of games with Blue Squatch. And it's funny because I showed up for the first game, and they're like, "Oh, you're the Blue Squatch guy." I'm like, as much as I'd like to take credit for Blue Squatch, I am actually just me. I work with Blue Squatch guys, but no, that's we are actually separate a little bit, but so much. But you guys are doing a bunch of games, and it's always fun. You get to do the Tonawanda games, which I think is so fun because I've called some games there. It's such a great outdoor box. It's a blast.
There's nothing.
Other than the fence around where there's normally like glass, that's a little weird.
Well, that's one of those places where a home field advantage really means a big deal because you get a little bit of rain, you're shooting off the plexiglass. There's so many variables out there. It's crazy. Trevor, you are paying attention to the stats. Who do you got leading the league?
So right now, there's kind of been two front runners out in the Can-Am. It's been the Allegheny Arrows and the Tonawanda Braves that have been the two best teams. Allegheny, up until this weekend, had not lost a game on the floor. They were assessed 2 losses for a violation of some sort.
Illegal players, right?
Yeah, I believe so. I don't want to speculate.
No,
but,
that was.
I believe that's what it was.
My understanding of it, I won't say who the source is, but it's definitely a person high up with Allegheny, that they had a player that they didn't know had played Senior C up in Canada. So when they put him on the team and didn't register it as he had played, Stamp probably can elaborate more with the rosters. Like there's so much little rules when it comes to like player rights and stuff, but
transfers and releases and things can get so confusing. And honestly, Senior C is great for the guys playing, but it's not. I mean, somebody playing Senior C shouldn't impact a Senior B league. I don't think, but whatever, it happens.
So player rights issues. So there's 2 losses, but now since then, Trevor,
who beat Allegheny?
They picked up a actual loss.
So the losses. So Tonawanda and Onondaga each got an extra win. So you'd have to imagine that those instances occurred there. But on the floor, it was the Tonawanda Braves who got the first win over Allegheny this year, 10-8 in what was a thrilling game. I unfortunately couldn't be there for it. Greg was there and got to see it firsthand, but watching it back, it was definitely a thriller. And we got to see the debut of a new Tonawanda Brave in Nathan Grennan in that game, and man, what a player he is.
I couldn't be more excited. Right? My favorite player in the league to watch. So when he got there, I was stoked. Stamper, you've got some big news with the Grand River team up there. You've got a couple brothers playing.
So the first game, the first home game was at the ILA. The rest will be at the Brantford Civic Center with the Chiefs, the Rebels, the Arrows, like so many Rivermen. So the Warriors are going to move their games to the Brantford Civic Center starting June 8th. That'll be the next game we do. But the return on May 17th against Newtown, their first game was the return of Johnny Paulus to competitive lacrosse, his first game in several years. And that was awesome to see. He has not lost his vision and his passing, his lacrosse IQ. He can still play. And Marshall has been playing. I don't know if they've played together yet. I haven't seen all the road games. I know Marshall's played some. I know Johnny's played some. I haven't seen them together yet, but they are going to be on the floor together as the season progresses. And the only time I think they've actually done that was when they played for the Six Nations Rivermen when Johnny was just coming out of junior B, he was actually called up for the President's Cup in Ganawagi I was just talking about, and he'd scored 150 or 151 points in the regular season with the Rebels junior B, and he was spectacular. And seeing them playing together, and they had Zed Williams on that team. Warren Hill was the goalie. They were really good. They actually won that championship that year. Not shocking, right? With that offense
and Zed Williams is actually coaching the Arrows team this year, so he's rehabbing physically and coaching the Arrows. The talent in this league is off the charts. Trevor, I know we got a couple of your favorite players getting ready to head to Allegheny. Tonawanda's gotten extremely fast. They feel like they lost the finals last year because they couldn't keep up with Allegheny, and they took it personal. I tell you, everybody on that team is in shape. Plus, Taylor Jensen. Wow.
That's a big addition.
Wow.
Yeah, Lakers fans are not thrilled that he's playing here because they really like him being in MSL last summer, but he's a great addition. I mean, that's a bunch of talent and a bunch of speed, and he's really developing lacrosse IQ-wise too.
Yeah.
I mean, he is so noticeable out there. I mean, he's almost just a step quicker than everybody. He's first to just about every loose ball. Great on all the face-offs as well for Tonawanda. He definitely is a notable difference maker.
And for anyone who isn't familiar, he is Josh Burns' brother. So there's that genetics going for them. They are just incredible athletes.
I thought brother-in-law. I didn't realize they were brothers, so that makes a lot of sense.
No, it's like half brothers, I think. I'm not sure, but yeah, they are brothers.
Okay, so he is absolutely one of those guys that never seems to run out of steam. Just flies. He's like a gazelle out there. He just literally flies everywhere. All right, so let's talk a little trash, make some early picks. Goaltender of the year. From what we've seen so far, I don't know. That Newtown Craig Seneca was pretty good, but boy, Chase Martin has been my guy year after year. I'm going to go ahead and pick Chase Martin again. Jake Lazor is a lot of fun to watch, but I think Chase Martin's going to be the star of the year again.
Jake Lazor will make some plays that will just have you jumping out of your seat.
Amazing highlights.
But it'll make, but then you'll fall back into it when the next play where you're like, "Oh, Jake, what are you doing?" So, hey, I love Jake. He's a buddy. He's a really good goalie. But yeah, it's a risk reward thing, right? Live by the sword, die by the sword.
Yeah, 100%. Trevor, who are you thinking?
Talking goalie of the year. I mean, you can't. You mentioned Lazor from Tonawanda. You also got to think about Joel Watson, too, in Tonawanda. Incredible talent down there as well. But, Greg, you mentioned Chase Martin. Him and Goa Abrams, an incredible tandem there for Allegheny as well. But I might have to go with an under-the-radar pick and say Craig Seneca for right now. I mean, 61 saves by our tally he had in the game against Tonawanda in a loss. It was a Herculean effort from Craig Seneca to keep them in that game.
Sorry, who's Craig playing for?
The Newtown Golden Eagles.
Yeah, right. Because so the game that Newtown came up to Grand River, they didn't have a goalie. I'm not sure if it was Craig that was trying to come up. So the goalie got turned back at the border for whatever, who knows these days, right? So like 7 minutes before the game, I'm trying to get the roster set, and I'm like, you know who your starting goalie is? He's like, no, we have gear, we have a stick, we just don't know who the goalie is yet. And so they wound up dressing. Oh my goodness, you saw it. It's a guy. When I saw him, I'm like, wait, I recognize that name. I've seen him play, but it was a defender who came in and played, and he wasn't ready at the start of the game, so he was still getting dressed. So they had to, and the refs were like, we have to start. It's time. We got to go. So they started with 6 runners and no goalie. They won the face-off, just ran around for 30 seconds, tossed it in the corner. Grand River comes down, and one of the defenders is like running around. He's like, give someone the ball and shoot. So they give it to Keto Hill, and you didn't have to tell him twice. Yeah. Keto Hill just bombs one in, and then he still wasn't quite ready. So they have the next face-off. They win the face-off again. They're killing some time. So the goalie is at the side door to the rink at the ILA, and he's like, I'm going in. He just opens the door and walks in. And I'm like, you've got 6 guys on the floor. You can't just during play open the side of the rink and walk in. And the refs I think they felt bad. They're like, But so I mean, it was wound up being like 19-5, I think that game, or 19-6 or something for Grand River, and that won't happen all the time. But Goa is really good.
Yeah.
And Craig Seneca has been he's had some games over the years that he really stands out. So there's so many of these guys that have been around for a while, right? That you see in different leagues and different situations, and it can really be a matter of whose year it is, right, or whose week it is.
Yeah.
Go Abrams, of course, with the big finger save to get the U.S. to the finals at the World Championship. He's kind of the guy of the moment, I think.
Yeah. No, and I mean, he played a bunch of games, so they've got to do three pro player rule. 3 games or more in the NLL count you as a pro. So Go is one of them.
It's 3 games?
Yeah, so it's 3 games that you had to dress for. So Go automatically counts, and then they've got. My understanding is they've got Fraser and Cloutier coming back, and that's their 3 pros.
And it's a tough one for them because. I mean, Go Abrams. Yes, he was traded right as part of the Nick Rose trade. He went to Calgary, and he was a backup and things. But he never played. He might have gone in for a few minutes, but he definitely didn't play 3 games. He definitely, so that's a tough one that one of your 3 gets eaten up for a guy who didn't go on the floor.
That was my question with it.
Yeah, right. Like, not that he's not worthy. I mean, he's a good enough goalie to be in the NLL, obviously, but
it's tough.
It's tough.
It is.
Yeah.
But Sturos didn't have any, so he is back there. They've got a ton of talent. I tell you, I think most of the unsung heroes in the Can-Am, you've got those transition guys, Rudy George, Jimison, Silas Jonathan. Like, you could go up and down.
Yeah.
The more you watch in this league, I really think those guys are the stars, and Jensen's fitting right in with that. I mean, that group, obviously.
Jensen, Jaden Jimerson.
Yeah.
So good. So good. Dawit Martin. Stu Hill also from Grand River. He's Stu Martin he's a difference maker. Stu Martin is so good. Like, there's a lot of really good players and some great games, and it's interesting because Grand River loses, and I don't mean to be too Grand River centric, but I've seen a lot more of them, obviously, getting to see them in person, and they lost their first 5 games because they were playing all road games, which goes towards why they're not playing their home games at the ILA, because they just couldn't get the floor time. It's just such a busy arena. But they were 0-5 coming out of the gates. They come out and win 19 to whatever, but with the other team dressing a defender in net. So it's like, okay, they've just won this huge game, and if people didn't know the details, then they go to Onondaga for the weekend and get a pretty big win, their first game of that doubleheader weekend, right?
Yeah.
And then Onondaga comes back and gets a win in game 2 of that doubleheader in Onondaga. And anybody at any time can really step up and win games in this league.
So much parity in this league, and I think a lot of it comes down to the goalie performance. So you get a hot goalie on one of these nights, and man, is that tough to beat.
And you get a cold goalie, and it's tough to win.
Yeah.
I was going to say, this has honestly been, the most parity I've seen in the Can-Am in my time following it. I mean, the gap between first and fifth really is the closest it's ever been. I mean, there were some years, you'd have a team that's, 12-0 and a team that's 0-12. And, this year it's not the case. I know, Stamper, you mentioned Grand River had the rough start, but now that they're going to start to get some home games under their belt and get some of their guys all lined up, I think they're going to start to get back to 500 and really compete throughout the rest of the year.
I think it'll be really competitive, everybody. And, it's interesting. So obviously the winner of this league goes to the President's Cup, which, as I mentioned, is in Whitby, Ontario this year. The Brooklyn Merchants are the host. They're really good. They lost 1 game early on, but they have not lost since Will McLeod joined them. And he's going to be, I'd say, a top 5 pick in the NLL draft this year. The Merchants have really put a good club together. They've got a dynamite team. The Six Nations Rivermen. Just look at the Chiefs. It's an NLL All-Star team.
Yeah.
And souped up NLL All-Star team. So the Rivermen are just so good because they've got all the guys that aren't on the Chiefs, right? So they're really good. There are other teams that are competitive, and everything's getting going. The Alberta champs always good. Saskatchewan just announced the Standing Buffalo just announced their roster, and Jeff Shatler's playing for them again. And they've got, here's the big one. They're 3 pros: Austin Shanks, Jake Boudreau, and it's one other of the Rush. I think
Filiano?
No, it's a defender. It's defender.
Is
It's
it
not
Messenger?
Holden Garland. It's Mike Messenger. Yeah.
Ooh,
Yeah, I was gonna say. I
Yeah,
thought
Messenger, Boudreaux, and Shanks.
they're going to be a good team.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we'll see. I mean, they had some pros last year, and they didn't perform great at the Prezi, but I think, and it's not they're not going to win. They might win the league. It doesn't matter. The Saskatchewan sends a provincial team, so it's basically an all-star team from the league. So they'll have those guys, and they can have guys like Steven Toporowski, who, if you're a Alice Rabetzky fan, you've seen him. He's a fantastic lefty. Can play tranny, can play forward, whatever. And then, of course, the Three Nations League is getting rolling. The Akwesasne Bucks are back. There's
huge
and
news.
yeah, which is huge. They've had some changes in the structure. I don't know yet who's playing for them. Snake Island has been announcing their roster for the Three Nations League, and they've added Curtis Conley. They've added that was the most recent one. They've a bunch of the guys that they've got back. They're really good. Briar Jonathan, and then their pros are going to be big factors. Ottawa, the Capital Region Axemen. There's a lot of good teams. It's really cool. I'm still kind of hoping that Nova Scotia might come to the President's Cup. I think if they could get the Privateers team that has won the last couple of or the won two Rebeskis in a row and made it to the final this year, lost in overtime. I think that group could be pretty competitive. And I was gonna have to just decline this call that I've got coming in. And I don't know if that affected the view for you guys, but for me, it was like, whoa!
Just flipped you up and down real quick.
Okay, yeah. So there's a lot of and BC always has. I mean, BC's had Ladner over the years, right? And I don't think they're going to be the same because they went from having 17 pros on their roster a few years ago, right, to the 5 last year, and now you're allowed 3. So we'll see if they're still the club, if they're still all in. But there's a whole bunch of talent at the senior B level, and it makes it a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think you have to have one of those programs. So yeah, everybody wants to talk about the 3 pros that show up, but if you don't have a core group of guys that you have there playing, especially those D transition players that don't always get a ton of credit, you're pretty well screwed in these leagues. I think you need that core group of guys growing up through. I think that's why so many of the these Canadian teams, and it's only Native American teams in the U.S. that can compete, because we don't start box lacrosse until way older everywhere else.
Yeah.
Buffalo's the exception.
Craig.
Yeah, we're trying. Buffalo is the exception. They actually formed a whole new division in the NABLL this year because so many teams joined.
That's awesome.
There's rumors of 2 new teams joining Can-Am next year. I'm fairly confident one of them's definitely joining. The other one, we'll see what happens. It's a lot of talk, but I'm fairly confident they will be adding one more. Trevor, who's your pick for the Can-Am regular season champions? If anybody doesn't know, there's 2 seasons in Can-Am. There's the exhibition season, or the regular season, and then playoffs. So, Trevor, who's going to win the preseason, or the regular season, as they like to call it?
Well, right now, it's like I've said earlier, it's kind of the 2 front runners have been Allegheny and Tonawanda. So I have my best prediction would be it's going to come down to one of those 2. I think Allegheny might have just a bit more, and the more experience as well, as they've done it last year, to get that regular season title and lock up the number 1 seed.
Yeah, and represented good in the President's Cup last year. Had that 4-0 run at the beginning, and then it didn't work out so well. But
a bronze medalist.
Finished with a bronze.
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean,
pretty good.
Which is phenomenal when you consider, what is like last year when Tuscarora went, they did not do nearly as well, but they had a lot of goalie injuries as soon as they got up there too, which, as we talked about, a cold goalie will really mess you up. Stanford, who's your
other injuries too?
Yeah.
Who's your exhibition pick?
Well, I think that Tonawanda has a real shot, given that they did get that bonus win for the forfeit from Allegheny. I think that gives them a real chance. It's clearly those 2.
They have 2 wins over Allegheny already now. So they've got the forfeit,
that's the thing, right?
and they beat them.
The forfeited one, and they beat them. So there's your tiebreaker edge right there. So I don't know. I wouldn't put it past Tonawanda to take the regular season, which would make things really interesting in the playoffs. If everyone kind of assumed Allegheny was going to be the club again, if they come in as the 2nd seed, that'd be interesting.
Yeah, that really would too. The big thing is, though, so when you talk about playing Allegheny to Grand River is a bit of a trip. You have to get over the border. Onondaga is probably the farthest one, but I think we could assume going to be in the bottom of the bracket. They're having a rough year numbers wise, getting guys together. Seems like some games they're very well represented. They get a goalie, and then they haven't been traveling great. So hopefully they do. But yeah, I'm with Stamper on this one. I'm going to take the Braves just because of the forfeit win. Without that, with just the one win and they split it, so I would have been close. But yeah, I'm going to have to take Tonawanda because of the 2 wins. But Trevor, I know you've got a heart out. You will be calling baseball, which whatever, but you'll be calling a baseball game.
It's minor league baseball, which is a lot more fun than major league.
Hugely, I will give you that. Minor league baseball is a blast.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. It's always a great time with the Buffalo Bisons. You know, I'm hoping we're going to get to play today. There's definitely been some weather in the area, but you know, we'll see. You know, but either way, always a fun day.
I love going when you go to Bandits games. You drive right by the stadium, right? And it's such a cool stadium. I've got to get to a Bisons game. I mean, I remember, you know, growing up in Ontario, we'd always see because we always get the Buffalo News. So we always heard about the Bisons, and it was like our kind of adopted minor league team. And so I've always kind of had a soft spot for the Bisons. I lived in London, Ontario for a while when they had a Tigers AA team there. And that was a blast. I got to see a bunch of guys that go on to the big leagues, and it's beautiful ballpark right on the Thames River in London. I know it's Ontario. I know there's the Thames. I don't know why they borrowed the name. Anyway, but yeah, minor league baseball is great.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I love Can-Am. It's my favorite league, and that's, you know, the minor league of the MSL. So yeah, no, I 100% agree. I think that's the way to do it. There's a level of passion in minor league that is often missing from pro sports.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. I mean, and you see that, you know, across, you know, sports here in Western New York, obviously with the way we support the Bandits and, you know, with the way we support the Bisons. I mean, you know, one of the highest attending, you know, franchises in minor league baseball with one of the best stadiums in minor league baseball. So the support, you know, is always there.
Awesome. We need to arrange a trip, like a gathering where we all go to see the Bisons and then check out some Can-Am lacrosse.
Yeah,
absolutely. We'll book it.
Do you need a color commentator, Trevor? I don't know anything about the players in the league the Bisons play in. I'm actually not sure which league they're in at this point, and I don't know as much as I used to about baseball.
None of that's important.
But I'd have fun.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we'll have lots of fun. It'll be a great time.
All right.
I mean, I get to do do
Yeah, totally.
We'll on color.
I'll show up and we'll just give you a microphone. We'll just plug you in.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks so much, everybody, for tuning in. Make sure you check out Stamp Lax on YouTube. That's where you're going to get all your Canadian Can-Am news, updates, games. Highlights will be coming soon. Trevor Butz going to be running a lot of the games on the Blue Squats. Check him out as well. Follow us all on social media. Consider joining the channel membership. That's how we're going to make sure we get these things streamed and more often. We'll see everybody next week. Maybe not with Stamper, but me and Trevor will definitely be back next week. Thanks, everybody.
If we're doing baseball, I might be here.